Today, we're super excited to have Rachel Luna with us. Rachel is an amazing certified master coach and international speaker who's been everywhere from Good Morning America to stages across the globe. She's known for sparking confidence and clarity and tons of people through her book, workshops, and courses, and has been featured in Forbes as one of the top 11 inspiring female entrepreneurs to follow on Instagram. Rachel's story is seriously inspiring. She went from broken to dreaming big in New York City to serving 10 years in the Marine Corps, even while facing some tough personal battles like fighting breast cancer. But she didn't stop there. Rachel found her true calling in helping others live their best, most confident lives. Her book, Permission to Offend, is all about being your true self without worrying about what others think. It's packed with Rachel's personal stories and practical steps to live in truth and step out into the spotlight. So let's get into some real talk and how we can all start living more unfiltered and unafraid and experience the freedom from living our truth. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Jillian. And fun fact, today, Permission to Offend is 1 year old. It's our birthday.
Woohoo! I got mine too. I'm just so excited to have you here. I got to hear you speak at a line and I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot wait to talk to you on the podcast. And
Yeah.
I just have to be honest and tell you that I remember seeing your book, and the people pleaser in me was like, oh, well, I don't know, like, permission to offend, I don't know if I wanna offend anyone. And then I'm like, well, I do wanna have more confidence, and I do wanna be able to show up more unfiltered and unafraid, so I need to see what this is about. And then I dove in, and to be honest, like, I've done a lot of like healing work on myself, but your book went really deep for me. And I actually realized how much I was still struggling with like wanting to be validated and fearing that rejection and trying to win everyone over, even if their opinion shouldn't even matter to me. And I really had to sit with that when I was reading your book. I was like, wow, like this is powerful and everybody needs to read this. So I need to know, like, what inspired you to write Permission to Offend, and what does permission offend mean to you?
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to take a moment and just receive that and receive that message. And I think that so often we get compliments. People acknowledge our work. People will say, like, when you did this, when you made this post, when you did this podcast, when you sent me that text, when you showed up at my house with whatever, and we dismiss it and we don't take the time to like just fully receive that your obedience has been a blessing to someone else. And there are so many times, I can't
Mm-hmm.
speak for everyone, I can't speak for myself, but there have been so many times where being obedient has been so uncomfortable, where being obedient has brought me to tears and made me feel like, why do I have to do this, Lord? And then my obedience
Yeah.
continues to open blessings, not just for me, but for others. So thank you for saying that, because writing this book was an act of obedience. And even in it, I have to take accountability. There were moments where I was disobedient, and there were moments even where I was filtered in Permission to
Mm-hmm.
Offend. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
when they gave me the opportunity to write the paperback was coming out. By the way, the paperback comes out this week. But when
Woo!
they gave me permission to do the paperback, I went back and I made some edits in the paperback
Oh.
where I had been a little filtered, not very, but a little filtered in the card cover. I went back and I said, I've got to be more unfiltered. So what does giving myself permission to offend mean? I believe that in every season, the definition may change, not will change, but may change. And for me in this season, it absolutely has changed, because whereas when I wrote it, I still do believe this. It is, giving yourself permission to live in your full truth and the embodiment of your identity, without fear of offending without worrying about what other people think. And I also, at the time, originally felt like two truths can exist. Your truth doesn't make me a liar. My truth doesn't make you a liar. And I think I know for sure I wrote that in the hardcover. I think I may have kept it in the paperback. I can't remember. But my truth for me, what permission to offend means today is that I will stand on the word of God. And if people are offended, then that's okay because in the Bible, Jesus said, they will hate you because you love me. And I don't want to offend people in my truth about my faith. That I don't want that. In fact, I want people to see me and for there to be a light that shines through me that is inviting to them and that they feel that they can come just as they are and that I will love and accept them for who they are. And we can still disagree about beliefs and we can still disagree about
Yeah.
practices. So that's what it really means to me. I will always look for common ground with people who are willing to look for common ground with me, but I will not compromise my belief system. I will not compromise my value, and I will not be made to feel bad for standing firm on the word of God.
Oh my goodness, I love that. That's powerful, Rachel. And I think something the world also needs to hear too, so that they can also offend or can defend their own truth. And I would
Mhm.
love to hear a little bit about your path to get to that point in your life.
So the path of I'm just going to do what I'm going to do and say what I'm going to say, and then you're either with me or you're not. Is that what you
Well,
mean?
the path of knowing that, like, no, like the path of knowing that, like, you're going to stand firm on your truth, God's truth.
Oh,
And, I don't think, I think people think like, oh, you know, you just were that way the whole time and you don't know the struggles I've been through, but you've overcome a lot. And you found God, right? And so I'd like to know what your path looked like so other people can probably relate to that.
okay. So first of all, let's be clear. No, I didn't wake up like this. I mean, I definitely woke up
Mhm.
like this. I'm not having a great hair or who I am. Like, it's always interesting, right? I'll come on these podcasts and everyone is like all done up, and I'm like, yeah, I'm home. I'm recording a podcast today. This is who I am.
There you go.
This is who I am when I'm on stage, right? All makeuped up.
I love it.
But I have two levels. I'm either ready to hit the stage or I'm ready to hit the bed. And there's really very little in between. But
Love
no, in
it.
fact, I was very, very insecure as a child. I had a lot of trauma in my childhood. I lost both of my parents to AIDS at a very young age. I felt abandoned by my father in particular. And my mom who raised me is amazing. And I was also raised in a very strict Puerto Rican house where children were seen and not heard, and you were not allowed to have an opinion, and you had to guard your tongue and really watch what you said, or you would get a big old smackdown. I read about that in the book. I think it's like chapter 1 or 2. I talk about it. And I think the book is funny. I don't mean to be funny, but I am when I'm retelling my stories. And
And
so,
even funnier when you're hear your talks, like, oh my goodness, I laughed and cried and was just like with you the whole time in your talk. I was like, everybody needs to come see Rachel.
thank you. That's a gift. That is a gift from
It
God. And
is.
but here's the thing. That is something that when people ask me like how did all that I there was a moment in my life, a definitive moment where I decided I wasn't going to be a victim anymore. I had been victimized and I lived as a victim for a very long time. But I went to see a therapist, and by the way, I had been in therapy since I was about 6 or 7, very young because of my losing my mother, my biological mother. But all of the therapists and counselors and psychologists and psychiatrists that I had seen throughout my years and into my early 20s, they really coddled me and they just let me be the victim. Here's the problem. When we have people in our lives and we let them remain victims, they don't grow. They stay stunted. They stay arrested in that. And I thank God for this one therapist or psychiatrist, whatever she was, a doctor. And she was like, you're a victim. You're just sitting here acting like a victim, and I don't work with victims. And I remember I was
Ooh.
offended. I was like, how dare you? How dare you call me a victim? And I remember I was I'm very spicy. The older I get, the milder my spice becomes. But at young 20-something-year-old Rachel, young, early 20s, I was hot. I was like, who do you think you are? You don't know my life. You don't know what I've been through. And I'm just off and off and off. And she goes, you're grown up now. None of those things are happening to you right now, but you're still living and acting like it. I don't work with victims. And I was like, well, I'm never going to come back to you. And I closed the door. But I went home and I thought about what she said, right? I replayed that conversation, which is something that the brain does for comfort. Right? So if you ever find yourself overthinking or thinking the same thoughts again, your brain is just looking for comfort and understanding. So there are two ways. I'm going to give you a little bit of neuroscience here because I teach neuroscience coaching for coaching and aspiring coaches. But what's happening is the brain is trying to make meaning and find comfort. And because it knows the outcome of that conversation, it'll just keep playing it over and over again, looking for it to make sense. If you want to break that pattern, instead of trying to make it make sense, ask yourself what you're looking for in that thought pattern. And then ask yourself, what would be a better thought? What would be more productive? What would help me turn this situation, good, bad, and different, into something positive that I can leverage to better my life or the lives of other people? 20-something-year-old Rachel did not have that cognizance, okay? I didn't know nothing about neuroscience then. I'm just ruminating, but it just hit me like, I don't want to be a victim. And I don't want to keep living like this. And I don't want to keep feeling this way. So I went back and I saw her and we worked through some things. I wish I could say after that, healed. No, because every time you achieve something new, there will be another layer. If we look at it from a biblical perspective, is it okay if I give you a biblical perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. We're here for it.
Yeah, good. Because I like to combine faith and neuroscience. I like to say that I use science to bring the Bible to life. I use neuroscience to bring the Bible to
I'm
life.
here with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the Bible, do you remember when Jesus is casting out the demon from the guy, and then they have this encounter, and the demon says to Jesus, "Our name is Legion, for we are many." And so if you
Mm.
look up the word a legion is anywhere from 5 to 7,000. So think about that. At any time, a person can have 5 to 7,000 spirits in them from the enemy's camp, just trying to, and they're little, lying spirits, lying thoughts, spirits of rejection, fear, anxiety, doubt, depression. I'm not saying that depression isn't also a mental disorder. Of course, there are things that are happening chemically, and sometimes it's not your brain. Sometimes it is spiritual warfare. So that's from the biblical side, right? So we have to continuously work on cleaning that out, cleaning out your vessel, cleaning out your mind, cleaning out your home. That's why the Bible says, be not conformed to the things of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, which, by the way, in neuroscience, that's called neuroplasticity. Renewing your mind, creating brand new neural pathways. Okay. So at every level,
Yes.
you're going to find some remnants of something there. And it's our job, our opportunity. And really, I dare say, if you are someone who believes that they are meant to do great big things in this world, then it is also your responsibility to take captive of every thought and to take captive of every lying spirit that has arrested your plans, that has frustrated the hopes and dreams that you have for your future. So I just started kind of working around there and little by little. And by the way, Jillian, earlier today, I was right there. I don't know if you can see right behind me. It's probably messy. I was right there on my floor, on my face, doing exactly what I'm telling you, because an intrusive thought came in. A lying spirit was trying to remind me of my mistakes. Have you ever had that experience, Jillian, where you make a
Oh,
mistake or you miss
yes.
an
Oh,
opportunity,
yes.
right? Okay, well,
Yep.
here's what the
I hear
Bible says.
you.
The Bible says, agree with your adversary quickly so that you may be found innocent in the courts of heaven. Okay. What does that mean? When the
Mhm.
intrusive thought comes in, instead of feeling bad about it, instead of blaming yourself, guilting, shaming, just say, yes, I did that. Darn.
Mm.
Crap. I did that. I said those things. I missed out on that opportunity. I chose to scroll on social media and consume instead of create. Whatever the thing is, just own it. And so when I owned it, I think I have my journal here. I'm a big proponent for journaling. I teach you how to do journaling my way in chapter 9. Let me see here.
Yes.
Is this okay? Or you want to look inside my journal?
I
Here.
love this. Yeah, yeah, let's do it. Let's dive in deep.
Sure.
We're here
I
for
should
it.
have warned you. You're probably not going to get to ask questions because I talk a lot. But
I
um,
love this.
in in that moment, this intrusive thought came up because it is the 1 year anniversary of Permission to Offend. And so if you're
Woohoo!
have the copy, you already have a copy and you haven't left an Amazon or a Goodreads review, please go do that today as a birthday gift. If you loved it, buy it
Yes.
for a friend, hardcover or paperback, both are great. So, or actually go buy the paperback because the paperback has some extras.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Go buy the paperback.
I'm
But
like,
anyway, so
I gotta know.
yeah, go. If you already have the hardcover, buy the paperback because then you get the extras. Anyway,
Yep.
so I'm having these intrusive thoughts about the fact that it's the 1 year anniversary of Permission to Offend, and I didn't have anything planned for it. I don't have a Mylar balloon like for one or a cupcake or some like photo shoot that the influencers do that, right? But I am not an influencer, Jillian. I mean, I have influence and I have authority given to me by the blood and the name of Jesus Christ. But I'm not a quote unquote social media influencer. I'm a coach. I am a teacher. I'm a mentor. I'm a leader. I'm busy doing all that. I didn't have time to think about the perfectly curated newsfeed or whatever. So I had this moment where panic, fear, anxiety came in to take me off from the plans that I had today. By the way, plans to make money. Because how many of us that are listening know that when you have more money, you can actually advance and elevate the kingdom of God, your mission, your dreams, your desires, your quest for bigger impact faster. So I don't care what
Yeah,
anybody
it's true.
says. I don't care. I'm here to make lots and lots of money because I have a dream to first be a 6-figure tither and then to be a 7-figure tither. In order to do,
That's awesome.
in order to, like, I'm part of a church right now. And we meet in an auditorium. We meet in a school auditorium, and we want to build the church and we want to do all these things. And I'm like, Lord, give me $100,000 so I can give it to them, so I can help build this church. Well, I gotta go out and sell. So here I am. An intrusive thought is coming in, and listen to me now, friend that's listening. You have a mission, you had a goal, you had a plan for the day, there's something that you want to sell. I don't know what your business is, and suddenly a, a frustrating thought comes in. I got on my face and I was reminded, my adversary reminded me, well, you gave up on the book. This is what I wrote. Ready? You gave up on the book, remember? You said you were moving on. Now you want it back? Make up your mind. What do you want? And actually, I lie because the adversary didn't remind me, God reminded me. Sometimes God tests us. We're real quick to blame the devil, but sometimes God is testing us to see how badly do you want it. Do you really want the things that you say you want? Because if you do, the things that you say you want come with responsibility and commitment,
Yeah,
and you
and
have to know how to be decisive.
yep, and you were given those gifts, right?
You were given the opportunity, and
Mhm.
so I
Yeah.
was very quickly. I said, "Oh, agree quickly so that you can move on and then keep it moving." I was like, you know what? You're right. I take it back. I want it back. Give me my book back. Give me blessings. Give me favor. Let people continue to talk about this book for years and years and years because, to your point, Jillian, it is deep, transformational, life saving work. The short answer, I gave you the
It
long
is,
answer.
yeah.
The short answer to your question, which was, how did I get there? Is that I am relentless in my pursuit of faith. And I believe in giving credit where credit is
Amen.
due. And all I had to do, Jillian, was look back on all the times that God saved my life, on all the times that God delivered me from my own stupidity and my own poor choices and my own patterns of indecision. Once you
And we've
start to
all been there.
really take audit and ownership over all of your life, it becomes much easier to give yourself permission to offend.
Okay. Well, I just love all the permission slips that you're writing in your book, that you've written out in your book, because oftentimes, like, we feel these gifts in our heart, and like sometimes we know that we're meant for more, and what we're waiting for is like the world to give us a permission, right? And
Mhm.
like your book not only gives us these permission slips, right? But you walk us through how that works. And so the first one you give in your book is the permission to live in truth. So, how do we begin to uncover our truth? Because sometimes, like you say in your book, things are true ish, right? But maybe not the truth.
It cut out a little bit. You said true-ish. What about true-ish? Let's go there together. What did I say? What did I
Yeah.
say? True-ish.
Like sometimes things are true ish, but maybe not the truth. Like the things that we are saying,
Yes.
like, is or feeling.
Yeah. This is why it's so
And,
important to challenge the truth.
mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna get you true-ish. Where did I put that? Um, that's so funny.
Oh, I
It's
have
not
it.
in my. Where do you have it? What page are you on?
It's in the first section. Hold on, because I
Oh, it's in
got
the
I
first
got
section.
all kinds of notes and
Me
stars
too.
and
Look at
underline
my.
and exclamation points. I
I
wrote
have.
all over this book.
Me too, because I did. I mean,
That's what
listen.
it's here for, though.
Yeah, for the record, I wrote every single word of this book um
Yep, I
myself,
felt that.
and shout out to Candace L. Davis, my writing coach. Um
Mm-hmm.
but I just have so many things. But okay, ask me a question about Truish. I'll answer it. I don't need to look at the book. I
So
wrote it.
so okay, here's the thing. Like, we can say like, well, this is my truth, right? This
Mm.
is like how I feel, but sometimes there's a part of that truth that is like from our past, right? And so like maybe it's not the real truth. Maybe it's just true-ish, and we need to dive a little deper into that
Right.
situation to find what really is the truth. I'll give you an example in my own life. So like my husband or I came from a secrecy. So my dad hid me as a secret until I was 18. And so I struggled with like, do I matter in this world? Do I
Mhm.
really matter? And like I did all the achievements, I tried to earn all the love. Like I could relate to Rachel Rodriguez like nobody's business, okay? When you were talking about her. And I did
Yeah.
all the things. I was pregnant at 17. I had my son at 18, and I would just struggle with, do I matter? And then I enter into my relationship with my husband, and he could do 100 things right, but I would see all the ways that he told me I didn't matter. And
Mm,
so like so is it true that like I really don't matter to him? Is that the
mm.
truth? Or is it true-ish because maybe he did things that are like affecting the wounds in my heart, but I didn't have the permission to offend, to share my truth, right? In order to dive into that and be able to come out on the other side and ask for what I really needed.
Yeah, that is why it's so important for us to examine the facts, right? So that's in chapter one, the
Mhm.
framework for freedom, because then you
Yeah.
shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And this is why I really believe that we should be asking more questions than rushing up to say, I'm right. And you have to be willing
Mhm.
to be wrong. The only way you're going to find freedom is if you're willing to be wrong about the stories that you've been telling yourself that have not served you or that have kept you in bondage. So we could go on and on, but really, here's the question: what is the fact? So the fact is, and I don't know your full story, but the fact is, your dad kept you a secret. But that's it. That's just the fact. He kept a secret. It doesn't
Yep.
mean anything about you. It doesn't say anything about you at all. If anything, we learn more about who your father is and his character than we learn about you based on his actions, right? So when someone does something to me, I don't learn much about myself. I learn everything about them. So if someone says to me, "You're this and you're that," da, 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 I'm not learning anything about me, because first I'm considering the source. Who are you? I'm only listening to what God says about me. Okay? If God didn't say it, then it's not true, because the word of God says, let every man be a liar and let God be true.
Yep.
So I'm in pursuit of the truth. And this is why it's so important to have a faith-based practice, because then you can back it up. And for me, my faith rests in the Bible.
Same girl.
That's the only
And,
place I can.
I
Yeah.
think too, like, the work that you have in the book, and like everybody just needs to get the book and go through these like alignment opportunities, these questions. Like, this book is not just a book to me. This is like a workbook with a book, like in one. That's what it really feels like.
For the record, for those of you that are listening to me and are like, "Oh my gosh, this girl is a Bible thumper," and the book is very light on the Jesus talk, isn't it? Right? I don't think it's Jesus heavy. And I try to make it palatable for non-believers. But if you're going to ask me about it, I'm going to tell you all the behind the scenes of where the Lord stepped in. But anyway, go ahead. What was the
Yeah.
question? What was the question?
Well, I was saying that like your book is really a workbook and a book
Mhm.
combined into one. And so everybody needs to get the book, because it's not just a book and it's not just a workbook. It's like one all in one. Like,
Yes.
and so you are reading it, but you're also working through stuff as you do it. And so I mean, for me, like, I had a pencil and a pen in my hand the whole time I read it, so that I could actually go through this myself. And I think that that's what makes things powerful, because we can pick up a book and we can read it, right? But if you don't like absorb it and then apply it, like, what are you reading it for?
Yeah.
And so I really felt it.
Mm. I think it's interesting when people are like, "I'm going to read 100 books in a year. We're 52 books this year, one book a week." No, I'm going to read four, maybe six. And I'm going to
Mhm.
study those books and really apply what I'm learning in those books. And I'm so grateful that you said that, because I wrote Permission to Offend with the intention that it would be more of a reference book, like a workbook that you kept going back to, that something, let's say an issue comes up with a best friend or a family member and they're not respecting your boundaries. Well, let's go back to the boundaries chapter. Let's do the work around boundaries again. Maybe someone did something and you are offended, because now offense is a choice. And I say that in the book, but we're still human. And in that first moment where we have an interaction that is unfavorable or disagreeable, you might start to feel offended, and now you want to go back, or you want to have your say. Well, then you go back into chapter 7 and you review the 9 steps that I give you so that you can offend with intention. Maybe you're stuck in your people pleaser, then you go to chapter 5, right? So the book is designed for you to keep coming back to it as life keeps lifing, because I am a master neuroscience coach with 14 years of life coach experience condensed into this one book to help you in most daily circumstances.
Yeah, so good. And it is true too. Like, once you do this work and you know your truth, I remember recording my very first podcast. And at the beginning of my podcast, I was doing a solo cast every week to try to get better. And I remember hitting record and getting really vulnerable about my life and what I had gone through and about the struggles in my relationship. And then the episode would come out and I'd get a little bit scared, like, oh man, people are going to, how are people going to receive this, you know? And at the same time, it also felt like freedom. Like this huge weight had been lifted
Mhm,
off my chest. Like, yes, this is me.
mhm,
This is my life. This is what I stand for. And I gave myself that permission to release the shame of the mistakes I had
mhm.
made or what I had been through and just being truthful. And, you know, I think you talk a lot about that in your book. And for those battling shame or guilt, like, is there any insights that you can share on how to navigate this, especially when it's hindering our growth?
Yeah, and I've got that. Let me see if I can find it right away. But in the book, I talk about that because I'm not going to find it, but it is in the book. I talk about that because I grew up feeling all kinds of shame because of some trauma and abuse that I endured. But here's the thing is that no one can shame you. No one.
Mhm.
People have an opinion, a thought, a comment, and that they're entitled to that, but that does not make it true. And so you don't have to take it on. You don't have to carry that burden, right? It is a shame that you did something, but you are not the shame of your mistakes. You are not the shame of your life circumstances. You are not the shame of, being in debt collector or having had bankruptcy or, having been an adulteress or having been the mistress or whatever your thing is, whatever shame there's when even been like your mom shaming me, you're fat shaming me, you're eight. No, they're not. They have an
Yeah.
opinion. So
Yep.
what? Is it true? Is it
Yeah.
true? Are you the things that they say you are? Because if you're, and by the way, because I hear someone saying, well, like, well, yes, I was an adulteress. Yes, I was a mistress. Yes, I did do this. Yes, I did do that. But that's not who you are today, is it?
Yeah. That was something you wrote that was really powerful for me too.
And you and I both saw Trent Shelton speak at a line, and he said, that's who you knew. That's not who I am.
Mhm.
You knew me then.
Mhm.
You don't know me now. And who I am now is none of that. So you go ahead and take your mom shame, your fat shame, your blame shame, your eight, whatever. And by the way, I'm going to say this. I know somebody's going to be offended, and I honor you in your offense, right? I give you your space to be offended. But if you're saying she's fat shaming me, if you are overweight, if you're full figured, if you have extra, whatever, however you want to say it. And by the way, I could care less what you look like. That's your body, your business, right? But if someone is saying that, if someone is quote unquote fat shaming you, it's only shame if you believe it and if you agree with them. If someone makes a comment about your weight and you feel quote unquote fat shamed, then I want to challenge you to ask, are you really as comfortable with your body as you say you are? And if you are, then who cares what they say? Bump it. They're just jealous because you're confident in your skin and they're probably skinny minis and they're not. By the way, skinny people have all kinds of complexes about their body.
Yeah.
I felt like there was a beautiful, big, curvaceous girl listening who's had that experience. And here's what I want to say to you, honey. If you're big and you love your big, beautiful body, then love it and bump what everyone has to say. But if they say something and it hurts your feelings, then be honest with yourself. You can still love yourself as you are and want to change certain aspects. I love myself as I am. I still want to tighten up this little, wing situation that's developing as I get older.
I
If
got
I
you.
never get toned arms, I'll still love myself. But gee, wouldn't it be amazing if I had toned arms? Okay? Pick up what I'm putting
Yep,
down and live your life in
I
freedom.
do. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. And here's the other situation on that note, like that I think many of us listening will relate to. I think many of us go through life and we play a role of what we think we're supposed to be. We get a certain job, we act a certain way, we sign up for all the things so that people will like us. We think like this is who and what and where I'm supposed to be because then people will respect me and they'll love me, and we finally get some time to ourselves and then we're exhausted and we wonder why we don't have any energy for the things that we really enjoy or value. And I think at the core, it's because like we all really want to feel like we're loved and that we belong. But how can we stop rejecting ourselves and really break free from this validation addiction?
Oh, I feel like that's chapter 5. It's either 4 or 5, ending the validation addiction. Oh, how do we do that? I forget what I wrote about that. It's been so long since I've had to address that in
Mm-hmm.
my own life, which is why wrote it in the book. But the way that I would say right now, today in 2024, but definitely read whatever I wrote and when I wrote the book. What did I say about that? Come on, give it away. What did I say? No, no, I'll
Well,
tell you what.
you have some really important journal prompts in here, that's for sure.
Oh, do I? Okay, well then go back to that. No,
Yeah.
no, no. Go back to that. I'm going to give you 2024 perspective, but go back because whatever I
Yeah.
wrote here, I know was really good. So the way that I end the validation addiction, I'm so far removed from. I could care less truly about being validated by people, and the reason why
Mm,
it's because they are human too, and they're having their own internal struggle. I work, Jillian, with people who are just starting out all the way up to 6, 7, and 8 figure earning people. When I tell you that I have seen behind the curtains of all these businesses, they're all looking, everyone has some area where they're looking to feel accepted.
yeah.
Everyone has moments where it's like, am I good enough? So, if you want to end the validation addiction,
Mhm.
I think it's the season that I'm in, Jillian. I'm really trying to find like a worldly response to this, but I can't because of where I am in my walk right now. And
Mhm.
you're looking for acceptance, look up.
Mm.
That's the fastest way to end the validation addiction. For more worldly ways and journal prompts, read my book, Permission to Offend. But if you want my raw, honest truth right now, I don't really care about being validated by anyone else. I don't care. I used to be very driven by what my bank account said. And I used to feel that my worth was based on, how much money I had in my bank account or whether or not I was being invited to this room or that room, because that's what the
Mhm.
world tells you. The world tells you that you should want these
Yeah.
things. But I am more concerned these days with freedom, emotional freedom, more than anything. And the first place that you're going to find emotional freedom is by looking up and just saying, here I am, I surrender. Today, I'm going to do what I am Holy Spirit driven to do. And that's not to say we don't make plans, because if you can see, I have a big old calendar on my wall. Like, I make the plans, but then I release and I surrender them to God. And I say, you validate them. You
Mm.
validate them.
Yeah.
What I say in the book, go
It's
ahead.
so funny you say that. I was literally laying in bed last night and I'm talking to my husband about this year, and I'm doing a program called Love Without Secrets, and where we can dive into like the relationships and finding that relationship with ourselves. And, and then I'm like, and that is the basis of the book I want to write. And I'm like, I have no idea what's next or what that means. I just feel like this is what I'm called to do. And so I don't know what the hell I'm doing sometimes, but like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so, and it's not easy either, though. Like, let's say that because, like, sometimes, like, walking in our truth and speaking our truth and getting out of those comfort zones because we feel like we're called to. It's not easy. It's so scary sometimes, right? Like
I said earlier on in our conversation, give yourself permission to be wrong. If you're willing to be wrong, then the validation is not going to be it's not going to matter to you, right? Give yourself permission to be bad at something. Give yourself permission to be a beginner again or to look foolish. I've always said you have to be willing to look foolish for your dreams. Think about,
and so
go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So what should we do when that fear starts creeping in? Like, like I feel like the fear creeps in and it's either like avoidance or anxiety, like starts
Yeah.
taking over.
Okay.
How can we get over that?
Let me explain the difference between fear and anxiety, first of all. And this is neuroscience for my science lovers out there, or for people who want to understand why we are the way that we are. Excuse me. So, fear is a fear and anxiety are both based on perceived threats, perceived or actual threats. But fear is typically because there's a real, clear, and present danger right here, right now. A bear is coming at you, a car, something like that. Like your life is literally in danger. That is genuine fear. If there is no real threat of death or harm, then what you're experiencing is anxiety. And typically, anxiety is based on a future occurrence, right? The number one trigger of anxiety is uncertainty. So, the reason that we feel fear and anxiety is because we are uncertain about what's going to happen. So, if you want to get rid of fear and anxiety, the first thing you're going to do is take a deep breath and ask yourself, am I going to die from this thing? Now, I think that there might be someone listening who may have gotten a medical report. And I know what that feels like because I received that call in 2019. And I remember when I got that call in 2019, I had to make a decision in the moment that I was going to be okay, that I was not going to die. You have the power of death and life in your tongue. So be careful about what you say. Be careful about the word curses that you speak because your mind, your brain is looking for evidence of everything you say out of your mouth. Now, by the way, do you see how the Bible comes to life through science? Because this is real science. What if we look at just science? Take the Bible out. Somebody's like, thank God, shut up about the Bible already. Okay, we're gonna take the Bible out. Let's just go with the science, okay? The science says that when you think about something, when it's at the forefront, when you put it on your vision board or when you journal about it, your reticular activating system gets lit up and it starts looking for evidence of what you said and what you saw. This is why when you buy a new car, you start to see that car all over the place. When you say, I'm hungry for butter pecan, and then the next thing you know, there's butter pecan ads or whatever. Watch me get an ad from because the phones are listening. But anyway,
Butter pecans.
ice cream. Okay, so your brain is looking for you to be right. It's looking for the evidence. So you have to start saying what you want to see. That is how we get rid of fear. First is to acknowledge, I'm feeling something. Next step, take a deep breath. Okay, I'm feeling something, but is it true? What do I actually want? What do I have control over? What do I not have control over? Because some things you have more control than you think. And if you would just take control over the things that you can control and then surrender the rest to God, partnership, baby, partnership. And I have to bring it back to the Bible because this is going to come for someone. I promise you, this is going to comfort you though. There's this verse in Exodus. I think it's 25, chapter 25, but don't quote me. It's in Exodus. Read the book. It's a fascinating book anyway. And in that book, God tells Moses, tell the people that I am going to lead you to this land and I'm going to do all these things for you, but it's not going to happen within a year. Because if I did that, the land would be desolate and the wild beasts would overtake you. So I'm going to remove all of your obstacles little by little so that when you take possession of the land, you can really own it. How dope is that? So as you start to surrender, as you start to break these patterns of fear and doubt and anxiety, and you start to take action on the things that you can control, don't freak out if it doesn't happen right away. Just stay the course. It's not happening right away for a reason. That's giving you time to be prepared. That's giving you time to gain resources. That's giving you time to build up your army, if you will, your support system, your community. Don't rush the process
Yeah.
and stop
Yep.
being deceived by those people who I started my business 5 minutes ago and now I'm a millionaire. They are
Yes.
not telling you that they also started
Thank
18
you.
businesses over the last 10 years. And this business they just started last year with the 18 years of experience that they had.
Yep. Thank you for saying that. I feel like there's so many people that feel that right now. And like there's a lot of rushed energy in the world, especially, like with social media and with all, we always have things coming at us, right? And so it's easy to feel like we're not enough or we should be here 5 minutes ago or what have you. And so thank you. Thank you for putting that out there. I think more people need to understand that.
Yeah, for sure. So relax.
Yeah. So
No,
why
you.
are right? Why are these permission slips that you talk about in your book and all the work that you do in the book and that we go through in the book? Why is this so important for us to have deeper, more meaningful relationships in our life?
Oh my goodness. That is the whole foundation of society. It is
Mhm.
relationship. Like we need each other. We were not designed to do life alone. If we were, then
Mhm.
as soon as you had babies, they would just go off on their own. Babies would, in fact, I think that if we were not meant to do life on our own, we wouldn't reproduce. We would just appear. Think about that,
Mm.
right? But even animals, they need each other. The babies come in. So your survival is dependent on, in my opinion, your faith and your relationships. Everything
Yeah.
else is just extra. If you have
Yeah.
faith, your relationships, and someone will say, what about health? Yes, health. But if you have faith, then you will have your health.
Mhm. Yeah. And even when you're going through those health crisis or
Hmm.
relationship crisis, right? Like then you can go back to your truth.
Hmm.
You have
Yeah.
that to fall back on.
But here's the other thing. I would also argue that what's your relationship with yourself like? Because
Mhm.
if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, it's really hard to have good relationships with other people. Otherwise,
Yes.
you start doubting your relationships with other people. You start wondering, do that, like to your point, does my husband really love me? Does,
Yep.
is this person really my friend? Well, listen,
Mhm.
are you a good friend or not? And if
Mhm.
if you think that they're not really your friend, do you think that because of something you did or because of the way that they're being? If you've been a great friend and they're showing up anything other than great back to you, if they're not matching your friendship energy level, then scram, beat it, get rid of them, keep it
Yeah.
moving. You don't have to cut them off,
Yeah.
but you don't have to give them your time and energy and attention and prioritize them either.
Yeah. It's so good. Well, I'm just so grateful for your book. I'm so grateful for this conversation, because this is just truth, right? Like this is truth. I mean, I'm a person of faith as well, and so I appreciate this conversation. I also appreciate, you willing to, speak your truth and be willing to offend, but you also do it in a way that serves with empathy and compassion.
Yes.
And I think that's what the world needs.
Thank you. I think so too. And that's my
Mhm.
intention. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I do want you to see the love of Jesus Christ through me. I do want you to see that come as you are and let's figure it out as we go. And along the way,
Yeah.
give yourself.
Well, you guys have to go get Rachel's book. Yes. Yes. Go get Rachel's book, Permission to Offend. It's so full of knowledge and insights and a workbook. And what do you have coming up? Can you tell us anything that you have coming up?
And then, if you liked the Bible Talk, then you'll love Faith Built Business, which is my new membership group coaching program where we are really interested in building our business God's way, making sure that like our faith is infused, we are doing money God's way. And if you read the Bible, you know that all the people that God put in position were wealthy people. There were no poor people running the show when God was leading the people out of Israel, right? So um it's an incredible. I'm really, really excited about this program. There'll be lots of group coaching. And yeah, just follow me over at rachelluna.com, on Instagram at Girl Confidence. You can get on my email list at rachelluna.com/lunatic. And then that signs you up for my Free Coach Fridays emails, which I love writing those. And once you're on the email list for Free Coach Friday, you'll get the details on Faith Built Business when we open.
I love it.
Thanks, Jillian.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been so much fun. And despite all of our internet connections, like we are raising the roof still. We are letting y'all hear this important, insightful conversation. So thanks for joining us today. To our listeners, we hope you're walking away feeling empowered to give yourself permission to unapologetically be you and speak your truth. Let's take what we've learned from Rachel and start living more boldly and confidently. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to join us next time for more inspiring conversations. Until then, keep shining and keep taking those bold steps forward.